What's going on, everybody? This is Raw Dog Sports. I am Mike. The guy on the far left or right is Evo, and the man in the middle, our guest for the day, a hell of a guy. Met him down here in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. He is with ESPN Asheville, Sportsocracy, Fox Sports, Upstate 104.9, and NFL Draft.net. He is the owner. Today joining us is Jeremy Greene. Jeremy, thank you very much for being here, brother. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me. I like to tell people I am the dumbest idiot that has ever been allowed to do this for a living, and I hold that mantra pretty strong.
Hey, I feel that we are a couple of dummy thick idiots on this show as well, so you're going to fit right in.
I love that. You were one of the highlights of the Shrine Bowl or Senior Bowl. Sorry, I was at Shrine too. That was an absolute excrement show. But you were one of the highlights of Senior Week for us. We always love meeting new guys that are doing good stuff. Your marketing plan was very strong. You found a degenerate gambler and handed him a poker chip, and I went, I like this guy. We're gonna get along just fine.
Yeah, I figured that would be a good way to get people in, especially because a lot of the things that we do on our show is gamble. That's kind of our bread and butter. But, you know, we're stepping out, going and trying to do some new things. Senior Bowl was a big opportunity for us. So I was very happy to meet you guys and the whole team. You guys were fantastic, so I appreciate you. It was not as convenient as I was hoping. Evo was not able to make it down there. But you know what? He's got a couple of guys that can pick their brain today and actually see, you know, what we saw. I've had a couple people on X already tell me that my takes on Nessimeier are completely off. I don't think he's that great, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Dude, don't listen to that. Look, you're talking to so I always like to start with this is why you should listen to me, because I have one from basically every draft class.
Hell yeah.
Trayvon Walker, the year he went 1, I placed a bet on him to go 1 the last day of the combine at plus 4,500 to 1, or plus 4,500, 45 to 1. And I said it all across the South. And I said, if you don't listen to me, do not whine when you don't make the monies. And then I went for 2 weeks. I took a 2-week vacation after the draft, and I called it Trayvon Walker week.
Hell yeah.
I also had Amon-Ra St. Brown at 8 overall the year that he went in the 4th round of to the Detroit Lions. By the end of it, I was sending text messages to scouts like, I will just go full G-string if you will take this guy so I can shut up. He will be an all-pro. Let me do it. I'm tired of talking about him.
I feel that. Evo, get in here, brother. How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I'm tired. Obviously, I wasn't able to make it out there to the Senior Bowl, and I'm really bummed about that and tried to make it up a little bit by doing something with the wife this weekend, going to a Bro Step EDM concert right now. I'm a man. I'm not a kid, and that shit hurt. Like, I am achy. I'm sore. A lot of fun, but I don't know if I'm going to be doing it again. I think I would have, you know, other than getting to spend the time with the old lady, would have much rather have been out there seeing the sights and sounds of the Senior Bowl and all the practices. I was really jealous. I wasn't able to be out there, but I'm excited that we got Jeremy in here tonight to be able to talk about what you guys saw out there. So it's not just one echo chamber of whatever Mike saw and whatever he thinks that the Cleveland Browns are going to do. We get some more voices in here around all these players that are going to be coming out. It's cool that you guys got to be there. You know, obviously, Jeremy, you're going to go to both the Shrine and Senior Bowl, and this being your regular job, it's really cool for us to be able to interact with you and talk with you because it's something that we're passionate about and get to pick your brain a little bit.
All right, guys. Well, with that being said, let's kind of start hopping into the show. Senior Bowl week has been fantastic down here, but Senior Bowl is now over. Game is done. It was a defensive battle, and that's kind of what I saw for most of the week. Defenses kind of dominated throughout the week. Quarterback play was down. Running backs didn't really flash to me. Jeremy, in your opinion, was this a typical thing that we see at the Senior Bowl? Is it defenses typically dominate when you're trying to get offenses who have not played together, gelled together? Because, you know, there's still specific rules inside of the Senior Bowl. You can only run certain coverages. You can only line up in certain things. So is that a normal thing that we should see, is defenses dominate?
I can't say it's normal. I mean, this is the worst. First of all, this is the lowest rated quarterback class I've ever had. This is my 16th NFL draft. It's my 6th one doing it professionally. This is the worst crop of losers in the history of the NFL draft. I go ahead and tell you, I'm not as sold on Mendoza as everybody else is either. What you were telling me about Nessimeier, I agree with you completely. I have a barely draftable grade on him. I have 5 draftable quarterbacks in this entire class. I'm already done with my 256 is set, barring the combine. Every once in a while, somebody will run at the combine. Usually they're already in mine. So it pretty much haven't made it by now. You're probably not going to. I do hit some pro days. But most of the time that doesn't change much. I'm deferring to the film. As for the Senior Bowl, this is the 3rd year I've been on site. I saw Bo Nix and Penix and all those guys the first year. Last year was not as good at quarterback, and this year was a complete disaster. So I'm not shocked that it turned into more of edge rushers and Kyle Lewis and a handful of other guys. It's common, but I have seen it go the other way as well.
All right. Evo, you got anything to hop in here?
Well, we already started to scratch the topic of the quarterbacks there, and you were in X Space the other night, Mike, that I kind of jumped in on and was listening to, and your Cleveland Browns, obviously you are a big Shedeur fan, but there's a lot of back and forth. Should they stick with Shedeur? Should they look elsewhere? And it always gets under these young quarterbacks. We're such a quarterback-driven league. My thought is that's what's driving these names up. Obviously, Nessimeier a year ago was talked about potentially being a big name in this draft, but obviously just hasn't looked good. It seems like every year in college, he's almost gotten worse, and there's injuries involved with that to a point this year. But is it just because he's the son of an NFL coach and he's kind of got that prototypical size that you're looking for? Is that's what's really driving him? To me personally, this is such a bad quarterback class. You bring it up, Jeremy. Mendoza is pretty obviously going to go 1-1, but he still looks, like a mid-range type of guy. If we were throwing Mendoza in the 2024 class, I don't know where he's going to fall. The 4th, 5th quarterback off the board, maybe.
I actually did this while we were down in Mobile. Of where would he have landed for me each year? He would have been my 4 in 25 behind Cam Ward, Jackson Dart, Tyler Shuck. In 24, I had Jaden Daniels 1, Drake May 2, Caleb Williams 3. Bo Nix was my 4, Penix was my 5, and Mendoza would have been right in between Nix and Penix. He would have been my 5 in 23. He would have been my 1 in 2022. Because that class was bad. But I mean, he's not as good as everybody makes him out to be.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I think that, it's by far and away he's the best in this class. How much of a gap do you think there is between him and Simpson out of Alabama?
Oh, how can I explain this appropriately? So to me,
no need for appropriate. You're good. You let it rip.
No! Trust me, it's not going to be appropriate. I was trying to figure out how can I. So the difference between Fernando Mendoza and Ty Simpson, to me, one of the most just absolutely stunningly beautiful women on the planet is Mila Kunis. The difference between Mendoza and Simpson is Mila Kunis to Macaulay Culkin.
Oh.
I mean, it is a chasm that you could fit the state of North Dakota in.
All right.
And the bad thing is, Ty Simpson's my 2.
Yeah. That's I don't agree with a lot of the stuff out there of him possibly getting into the first round, but it just goes to show you the desperation of these NFL teams and looking for a quarterback. And I think that's why Garrett Nussmeier is probably being talked up. From what I've heard, he was the most consistent quarterback there in Mobile.
I thought Cole might have been the most consistent. Wasn't great.
I said that yesterday. I think the North Dakota State kid was the most consistent. And Nussmeier was probably the best of Nussmeier was better than anything I saw out of Peyton. But I thought Nussmeier was consistently high. He threw an interception in the game today that was high. His pacing was off. His feet were off. He kind of panicked in the pocket. And that's what I saw in Nessimeier is he is routinely high, which I can't stand that out of a quarterback, especially one that you tried to sell me on how accurate he is.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's just such a quarterback driven league that these guys are going to get talked about more and more. But I personally think Nessemeier's a late round flyer guy that people are going to have on their depth chart, but I don't expect a whole lot from him. But you look at a lot of the big draft pundits out there, and they have to have something to talk about. And I think that's quarterback is an easy get your clicks. So they're going to try to build these guys up as much as possible because what team doesn't want to find the next Brock Purdy or Tom Brady or something like that that's going to get taken late? And so I guess if analysts are talking about these guys now and then the guy hits in 2 years from now, then they can go back and be like, see, I told you he had a great Senior Bowl.
I wanted to bring up because we talked about somebody just brought up the idea of like getting those clicks. So speaking of getting clicks, let's stay with the quarterbacks and talk about a name that will probably get clicks in Diego Pavia. What an interesting week that Diego had. Didn't look terrible at times in practice. At times didn't look good. But when you look at the way he measured, I'm not sure that there's a guy whose stock was tanked more than Diego Pavia's. Like 5'9" and 3/4, 189 pounds. That's smaller than Bryce Young. And there's obvious concerns with Bryce Young and his size and stature, and they were when they were coming out. Those were one of the things that my huge knocks on Bryce coming out was, could he physically make the transition? And I feel like Diego, I mean, he's got the grit. He's got enough, I guess, swag behind him that he thinks he can do it. But is anybody going to give this kid a shot after the way he measured this week? What do you think, Jeremy?
Has a team moved to the land of Oz that I don't know about?
I don't believe so.
Then he's not getting drafted.
Maybe the Jets.
He represents the Lollipop Guild. He is at 5'09.7". I didn't think he was draftable at 6 foot. I really don't think he's draftable at 5'09.7". The problem that I have with Pavia is that virtually every play that he made that I heard people talk about was off schedule. It was he's scrambling out to the right, and then he finds a guy. Well, these practices aren't meant to run like that. That's not a positive. And I actually heard, I don't know which coach it was, but one of the coaches kept trying to tell him, stay in the pocket. We're trying to evaluate all of these things. And he just keeps running out. He's a backyard football player. I live close. I'm 4 or 5 hours to Nashville. I saw him at Vanderbilt a couple times. He was a really good college football player. So was Tim Tebow. So was Eric Crouch. So was Charlie Ward. So was Tommy Frazier. I could do this for a long time. He's not an NFL quarterback. He's not close to an NFL quarterback.
Yeah, I felt like he was size prohibitive, just plain and simple. You compare it to a Kyler Murray or some of those other short kings who have gotten into the league at quarterback. They still had something special about them. He physically doesn't seem to have anything special going for him. He's a winner for sure. He did great things in college, but I just don't see the translation in the NFL. And then you talk about, La La Land. I'm heard something about the Jets had sit down dinner with him or something like that. And that's the type of poverty franchise that I could see trying to make something out of it. But I just don't know how he's draftable.
As a lifelong Jet fan, it is a very Jetty thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sounds right. I'm a lifelong Browns fan, so I completely understand. There's not a whole lot of other quarterbacks to talk about, but wide receivers are something that I know my Browns need that I would love to talk about more, because there were a couple dudes that I thought, obviously later rounds, but are going to climb. The Ohio State receiver, Carnell Tate, is somebody I want in the first round. But if we can't get a big body receiver like that, there's a couple of guys that I think could absolutely be targeted later on in Ted Hurst, and then that kid out of John Carroll, who I cannot remember his name, but they both have phenomenal weeks. Tyren Montgomery.
The thing I'll caution you on Tyren Montgomery is this kid went from somebody none of us had ever heard. We didn't know who he was. He showed up at the Shrine Bowl coming off an invite, I think from the Hula, As many times I've said this in the last 2 days, you'd think at some point I would have Googled it and checked where he actually started. But I think he went to the Hula Bowl, then he got an invite to Shrine, and then he got a late invite to Senior. If that kid goes before the 6th round, the GM should be let out of the building in handcuffs. Not because he's not a decent enough prospect. How long do you think that kid's played football? If you just had to guess.
I mean, anybody who is going from a small school to hopefully the NFL, you'd think, I don't know, 10 years average.
24 months ago, that kid had never played a snap of football in his life.
Holy shit.
He was a walk-on on LSU's basketball team.
So
I don't know how he wound up
hell.
at John Garrell. He is as raw as they get. And if you noticed, I know you were at the game today. I sat here and watched it. If you noticed when it got into live reps, it became more and more obvious how raw he actually was. When you get out of shorts and you get out of camis and you get out of Guardian caps and you actually get on a field, it became abundantly obvious to me. The kid's really fast. I think he'll be a punt returner, kick returner off the jump. That's probably 2 years of him. That may be all he ever becomes. He had a good week because he's really fast, and these are non-contact practices.
That makes a lot of sense. In your opinions on Ted Hurst, because I know that's another guy that I really like. We talked about him a little bit on the other Tuesday show. Takes on Ted Hurst.
So Ted Hurst is from Georgia State. I actually spent a lot of time in Atlanta this year. So I was already on Ted Hurst. For a point of comparison, coming into this week, Ted Hurst was my 111. That's where I had him overall. I actually had him one spot behind Max IHEANACHOR, who we're going to talk about, I'm sure, at some point.
Yep.
Yeah, he was so good this week.
Hurst is, the body's great. What I was scared about was the level of competition because he plays in the Sun Belt. So I wanted to see him in these one-on-one reps. I wanted to see what it looked like when he saw high-level competition. And he shined. So, I mean, for me, Hurst is a guy that I will start targeting about midway through round 2. I think that's probably his ceiling is right around 50. I would say his floor is probably he won't make it out of day 2. I feel very sure of that.
Yeah, I feel the same way, man. I've seen people, if you go and do a mock draft right now, you can still get Ted Hurst in the 4th or 5th round, and I don't think that that's going to be possible when it actually comes that time. Evo, hop in here, brother.
Yeah, that Hurst was one of the guys I told Mike that I had on my list of guys I really wanted to pay attention to because I was high on him as well going into this Senior Bowl. Just the height, weight, speed, measurable type stuff, but what he did at a smaller school, the same thing. I wanted to see him go up against bigger competition. Obviously, that first day, he had some of the more highlight reel catches, and I didn't hear a ton about him from there on out other than he was solid and consistent. So that's good to hear that, he was able to be good pretty much through the whole time there. Excited about that. Any other smaller name receivers, guys that we might not know as much about before the Senior Bowl that really kind of stood out? Obviously, there was Malachi Fields, I believe, from Notre Dame, not small school, but I heard he had a pretty good week out there. But any other names that people should probably be paying attention to more that didn't get enough buzz?
Fields was really good in the first 2 days. I thought he kind of plateaued in the third day. Guys got a little more physical with him when the pads came on and when you're having, a full practice. I mean, look, I still thought he was good, but I'm not changing my full eval on Malachi Fields where I had him coming in here, which is basically he was an end of 3 prospect for me. The thing about Malachi Fields, he has great hands. So I'm going to compare the last 2. Malachi Fields' drop rate was 2.7%. Ted Hurst was 9%. Now, neither one of them had drop issues this week. Hurst did have one in the game today that bothered me a little bit. But Fields has got good hands. I don't know that he's ever more than he probably never projects as more than a 2 because he's a big-bodied kid, not necessarily the spectacular catch guy. Contested catch rate was below 50%, which is usually a pretty good indicator. He also wasn't as good against man. So I think he had a good week. It solidified me for where he was. This is a really deep receiver class. Now, you asked guys that maybe didn't get the love that they deserve. Chris Hilton Jr. from LSU, he was a late add. so he didn't really get the chance, but he had been at Shrine. I thought he had a really good week at Shrine. Josh Cameron from Baylor, I thought he had a really good week. Kevin Coleman Jr. from Missouri, that's a slot exclusive. He's never going to be anything more than that, but man, he's really shifty out of the slot. And then I'll go Cyrus Allen, 5'11", 1 out of Cincinnati. Not a big kid, only 180 pounds, but my God, that kid can fly. I mean, just speedster, short area quickness, all of the things that you could possibly want to see out of him. As somebody that came in as probably a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, I think he solidified himself as a draftable player.
I think Malachi Fields had probably one of the best catches of the week. Obviously, everybody's seen the Ted Hurst going over the top in one-on-ones, but that ball from Tyren down the seam that he had to make the adjustment for, it kind of played it like a center fielder. I thought that was one of the most spectacular catches all week. Malachi, I mean, really bailed Tyren out on that throw. So I can see why, you know, he's moving up, and because he is a big dude. There's a couple dudes out here that were just very large receivers. We are not going to have a problem being able to get big body receivers in this draft. There's quite a few of them.
You had Jacoby Lane this week. He's one of the weirdest big receivers I've ever seen because he's 6'4", but he plays like he's about 5'10".
I heard he didn't have that great of a Senior Bowl, Jacoby Lane specifically.
He didn't. This is not really set up for him because the biggest knock on Jacoby Lane is he doesn't get open easily, even though he's 6'4", and I think his testing numbers will be fine. He's not a great route runner. You look at him at USC this past year, his yards per route run were 2.4, I think, which is not great. It's not terrible, but it's not great. And then you just kind of look at the fact he played a lot in the slot. He played he played a lot out wide, but he still played in the slot. You're having to kind of manufacture the touches. This isn't set up for him. I cautioned a lot of people, if you liked him coming in here, don't jump off the Jacoby Lane bandwagon just because he wasn't great at senior. This is not built for guys like him. He's not the high flyer. He's not the big deep threat. He's not going to have the X highlight, Instagram highlight catch that everybody talks about. I didn't think he was great, but it didn't change my grade on him at all.
All right. I'm kind of curious about some of the tight ends. One of the guys that I was really high on going into the week was Sam Roush out of Stanford. I feel like he is going to kind of embody the more traditional, like can do both of the blocking and receiving type tight end that he was stuck at Stanford, not the best situation for it. Some drops and stuff there at Stanford that I didn't really like. But I've heard some good things about like Trigg and what he was able to do, especially I think he had some big catches in today's game. But what tight ends kind of stood out was my guy, Sam Roush, looking pretty good down there. It seemed like a mediocre first day, but then I've heard more buzz in the following days.
Roush is an interesting prospect. I liked him a lot coming into this because he is a plus blocker. And in this class, basically you have guys that are plus pass catchers or they're plus pass blockers. He's one of the only ones that's a plus at both. The thing that bothers me about Roush is so much. I mean, he only had 545 yards all year. And I get it. The quarterback's not good. But then you kind of look at the biggest games they played. So you look at their schedule. The four of the 5 best teams they played were SMU, Florida State, Pittsburgh, Notre Dame. The 5th one would have been Miami. Miami just completely shut him down. Longest catch he had 5 catches. Longest catch was 7 yards. SMU had 8 catches for 89 yards on, I want to say it was 10 or 11 targets. Florida State was 6 for 63. Pittsburgh was 8 for 104. Notre Dame was 4 for 73. But then you look at Hawaii and he's 3 for 6. BYU 1 for 2. San Jose State, 3 for 43. It just seemed like there were times that I think this kid knew he was an NFL draft prospect from early on, and he really knew when to turn it on. That bothers me. You know, I do a lot of work with the Washington Commanders, and Logan Paulson has used this line to me multiple times. You don't meet many guys that are 10-year veterans that you have to worry if they love football. Because to make it to that 10-year mark, you got to eat, sleep, breathe this. And it felt like with Roush at times that he showed up for the biggest game when he knew the camera was on him. I'm okay with that. It's much better than the opposite way where you had 90% of your production against San Jose State and Hawaii. I know you can do it. I may just have to work on your motivations and make sure your head's in it at all times. I love Roush, though. That was not a negative. It was just something to be aware of.
That definitely is weird and concerning because usually it's the opposite, like you were kind of saying. This is the bad or worse schools that he's going to perform against, but obviously he did pretty decent against those. Do you think maybe it was, like you said, knows that he's going to be a draftable prospect, but knows the situation that he's in? I would hate to think that you would turn it off for those games because, you know, they're easier, or maybe it was just a different game script. And you know, sorry I didn't watch a lot of Stanford this year, but maybe they just weren't utilizing him as much or something in those games. But like his family lineage, lots of former professional athletes, including NFL players. Maybe they were, you know, like, hey, you don't completely blow yourself out. You can go in a mid round because you're a tight end anyways and get to a team and kind of show out there. I would hope that would never be the case, but like, I'm still happy to see him perform against the good teams. But that's at least one of the things that I liked about him is that he does know professional sports because of his family. He's been around it. I would hope that it's more of a less on him not performing in those games and more of a game script thing.
The thing with Stanford is that you got to coach very late. The head coach was Frank Wright.
Yeah,
it was a late hire because they had the issue with Troy Taylor where they fired him for cause. I think he was a Troy Taylor guy, and maybe he looked around at Stanford and went, it doesn't really matter how good I am. This team is terrible. I'm not saying I'm giving him a pass because I'm not, but I understand it, especially in modern, you know, the NIL days. I feel like Sam Roush is one of those guys that probably looked around and went, what am I doing here? You know, he's from Nashville, Tennessee. I feel very sure he could have played at Vanderbilt. And he probably looked around at times and went, I made a bad decision to stay here. I just made a bad decision. And it played into him. You know, you don't like your boss, your work tends to suffer. You don't believe in your boss, your work really tends to suffer. So, I mean, what I saw out of him this week, I loved it. He's one of my highest rated tight ends on the board. And I think he was clearly the best tight end at the Senior Bowl.
All right.
Yeah, it was this tight end class is going to be really deep, I think. I liked Kacmarek this week as well, but
I like saying his name. His name's really funny.
But other than that, I mean, like, this class is loaded at the top. You got Thicc, which I know everybody, like, Evo, you're enthralled with Thicc.
I am enthralled by the measurables and stuff like that. I'm a little bit depressed by how the end of the year went. It seems like he really started to peter off. The other tight end out there at Oregon started to almost look a little bit better. Maybe he was just gaining more attention. I like the physical measurables and stuff like that, where he could potentially be like a Harold Fannin type of athlete at the tight end move piece. But I like him as a first rounder, probably late first round. But the tight ends overall in this draft, I think, kind of like Jeremy brought up, you got guys that are good at blocking or good receivers. I think we're going to see a lot more from those receivers. Like the tight end class this year is going to be a decent receiving class. Were there anyone else there out at the Senior Bowl that kind of like Joly or anyone that showed up and looked decent as a receiver where that was kind of their expectation?
I liked Justin Joly. He did make it very clear to a lot of us his name is Joly, not Jolly. And apparently he does not like being called Jolly.
I can understand.
Joly.
There was a guy sitting with me on, I think it was day 2. He went down there, and that was one of he was one of the ones he went down to ask a question to. And he said he corrected me aggressively that his name is Justin Joly. Like, been there, done that. I've butchered names before. I like him. I don't think he was used well at NC State. I cover NC State here because I'm in the ACC country. And he was one that I went into the week going, I really want to keep eyes on him. I like Tanner Koziol. The only problem is that he kind of looks like a giraffe that somebody put in a prison cell, and then they just let him out, and they're figuring out how to run because they haven't been able to do that since you put him in there. So he runs a little upright and a little rigid, and I don't love that, but he's going to be a problem. I mean, the kid's 6'6.5". He can run. He's fleet on his feet. It may take a couple years, and I don't think he's ever going to be able to block anybody. But Koziol and Joly were the other two that really kind of stood out to me.
All right. Let's transition here. Let's talk a little bit about the offensive line. I know that my team is in dire need. We need 5 new offensive linemen essentially for the Browns. So I've been very in depth. Like I've been watching the shit out of the linemen over the last 2 days. Day one, I wanted to watch the receivers. First time down here, I was watching one-on-ones. It was great. But over the last couple of days, there have been a couple of tackles that have really kind of up their value, in my opinion. That they're still probably going to be a little bit later, but like Crownover out of Texas A&M, that's a kid that I think that probably has helped himself quite a bit. I thought he looked really good this week. He's a late round guy, probably day 3, but he can get up to round 5, round 4 maybe now, depending on what happens at the combine. And then we talked about Max IHEANACHOR, who was fantastic. Is that how you pronounce his name?
IHEANACHOR.
IHEANACHOR. Okay. There were some dudes that I was pretty excited about, and obviously, Gennings Dunker, we have talked about quite a bit. Evo, dude, it seems like. Jeremy, what was your take on the linemen this week? Who helped themselves? Who hurt themselves, if anybody?
I thought IHEANACHOR did himself some favors. He's got kind of a wild story too. He didn't play high school football at all. He never played football in high school. Then he goes to East LA College to play football because he grew. He was a point guard on the basketball team. And I think he went for, don't quote me on these numbers. I know the story's right, but I'm not positive my numbers are right. I think he went from a 5'11", 190-pound point guard to a 6'6", 280-pound kid in 1 year. And he said, screw it. And he played 2 years at East College. He was the number 7 JUCO player in the country. Goes to Arizona State, starts there for he started for 1 year, played I think he got thrust in there by injuries, and played half the year. So, I mean, this kid has started like a grand total of 30 games in his life. And I want to say 10 or 15 of them were at the JUCO level. So I wanted to see how he held up in the competition, and I thought he held up great. Usually I see that basketball player build, and I get scared because the ankles were really little. And so you start seeing him just try to use athleticism. This kid didn't. He wanted to run through you. And I've seen him. I think Todd McShay has him in the first round. And I know Todd. I love Todd. I think that is you've gone a little too high.
A little bullish.
I think that's a little high, but it's not. I don't think it's crazy at this point. Because this tackle class is good. It's not great.
Yeah.
Like, I love Maui Noah from Miami. That one to me is no doubt number one tackle in the class. I get he's going to play right tackle. I don't really care. From there you go Fano, who played on the right side. Then you go Lamu with the kid that was on the left on the same line with Fano. I'm not in love with him. I'm in like. Then you get into the Gennings Dunkers and a handful of guys like that. I mean, I think it's open for somebody to get into that back end of the first round. You look at a team like Denver. You look at a team like Buffalo, who's got aging offensive tackles. I'm not going to be stunned. I'm just not ready to say it yet.
All right.
Yeah, Jennings Dunker obviously got a lot of traction this week at the Senior Bowl. The guy just looks like an offensive lineman when you come in with the mustache and the mullet and drinking 32 ounces of coffee during practices and stuff like that. And shout out to the Culvers and everything. Like, he's the guy that you think like this is your typical Iowa big farm boy offensive lineman. And I've always been fearful of, I look at the book and or the cover of the book and I feel like I know the whole story with the guy. Obviously I liked some of the stuff I saw in college, but is the hype kind of real around him where it's not just the persona, but like I heard he had a good week out there. But is he really deserving of some of those first round talks at the end of the first round? And do you think that he sticks at tackle, or is he going to possibly be bumping in more towards guard or center, which I know he practiced at a little bit this week?
So I had Jennings Dunker at 26 overall coming into the week. So I was already bullish on him. Now, I'm also a big ginger who just cut his mullet about a month ago. So I feel like his ma and my pa probably met each other at some point, and I think he might actually be my illegitimate brother. Then he said that thing about Culver's, and I went, oh, maybe he's a cousin. I don't think he's a brother because I don't like Culver's enough for that. I think the kid's going to play right tackle in the league. I think he's going to do it a long time and be really good at it. He's got a really deep experience. I mean, he played 12 games. He played 12 games his freshman year. I think he started all 13 games in his sophomore year. And then he had one little injury thing in his junior year. But, I mean, other than that, the kid started like 50 games or something like that. Two-time All-Big Ten. He's a people mover. I've watched this with Iowa guys. If they don't stick out at tackle, they all have to be bendy enough to play guard. So for me, his range of outcomes is he's either on the high side, an elite level right tackle. On the low side, he's a really, really good guard. Because I think there's also a possibility that it might just be an elite guard.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was nasty in run blocking all week, and it's something that everybody has kind of seen on tape. Iowa is going to run the fucking ball, so that's kind of what he's used to. I really like the way he looked, but his teammate, Bo Stevens, also looked pretty good this week. Now, he lost a couple of pretty bad reps over in one-on-ones at one point, but that's going to happen. Offensive linemen are not necessarily set up to win one-on-one. So when they do, it's a really damn good rec. But I liked Stevens a little bit as well, but he's going to be, later day 2 type guy.
For sure. I thought he had a decent week. Dunker was the one. I mean, and look, you got to understand that part of this is because of how he looks. I mean, it's the second time I've watched a big ginger take over the Senior Bowl, because I was there a few years ago when Cody Mauch did the same thing.
Yeah.
And they kept showing him looking like a 12-year-old, and then all of a sudden he looked like he paid 4 alimony payments and had 7 children that were sharing a bedroom in his double wide in 2 years. So, I mean, we've done this. The good thing is Cody Mauch wound up being pretty good. I think Gennings Dunker will be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we got a couple comments coming in here. We'll go ahead. Hello. Marvin Alkin. I think that's what that is. What's up? We got one in here. I wanted to make sure we got this one up. Appreciate Jeremy for being here, because we're just a couple of extras surrounding him. So thanks to Buffalo Blanco. Appreciate you for stopping by, brother. With that, where we go next? Because listen, there are a ton of guys to talk about. The defensive line and edges, I feel like kind of stole the week. They were fantastic. I was very lucky. I got to speak with a potential first-round pick, but I know that Jeremy does not necessarily feel the same way about this guy. TJ Parker, let's talk about him. So listen, TJ, I was very grateful to him for coming and answering my question. His dad, 11-year Army vet. So it was really cool. What we do here, Evo and myself are Army veterans, and we're trying to, start something where it's, done by veterans for veterans, but we are incredibly grateful to have guys like Jeremy come help school us up a little bit. What is your take on TJ Parker?
Okay, so this is the first time I'm saying this, and I'm going to explain to you why I'm saying this the way that I am. TJ Parker and I played for the same guy. So Mike Houston was a defensive assistant at Clemson this year. He was the former head coach at East Carolina. I have to be careful anytime I say anything about guys that played at a school that Mike was at, because he was my coach in high school. And anytime I say things, Savone Ravel last year, I learned a valuable lesson. People think it came from Mike. So I'm going to give a big disclaimer here. I have not talked to Mike about TJ Parker. Now, I do work in a Clemson market. I work for a Clemson affiliate. We are close to the Clemson program. And I can tell you, TJ Parker's effort level this year was a problem. I got told that in September at the LSU game. It continued the rest of the year. Then I saw something that made me very, very, very angry. Parker's effort level on day 1 sucked. It wasn't just mediocre. It wasn't bad. It sucked. He came in, had one rep. It was the only rep I saw, and I literally sat there with a pair of binoculars watching him the whole time going, do something. And I say that because I really wanted to be able to go back to Greenville, South Carolina and go, one of your few boys here was really good. I couldn't do that. And so much to my dismay and surprise, I got back to our Airbnb in Mobile, and all of these people said TJ Parker was the winner of day one. How the hell did that happen? The one guy here that really wanted him to be good is sitting here telling you he sucked on ice. And then I saw it again and again and again and again. And I don't know what you're looking at. I really don't. I even asked a couple of those guys that I know quite well, what are you looking at? And I'm not going to tell you who the guy was, but it's somebody that's pretty high up in this industry. Said TJ, this was his exact quote. I'm going to repeat it to you. And it kind of explains it a little bit. TJ Parker is the guy that will make me look bad if I'm wrong. Because I know he has the height, the weight, the speed, all of it. So if he ever decides to actually do this, and 4 years from now, my take is out there of TJ Parker sucked on day one, that I'm going to be on freezing cold takes forever because he has the talent in him. To which I responded, yeah, I know he has the talent. Why does he never use it? I go back to, you don't find a lot of 10-year veterans that don't love football. I don't think TJ Parker loves football. I've never thought he loved football. I think he had Peter Woods on the inside of him, who is the best defensive tackle in this class. He's going to go in the top 15, and TJ Parker still found ways to not consistently get after quarterbacks, even though you couldn't double team him on a consistent basis. I think he has all the talent in the world. People like me that had to work my ass off just to be a half-us, maybe even a quarter-us of a player, I look at guys like that and go, I wish I could put my heart in your body because you'd be a Hall of Famer. Because that's what he's missing. If he has the heart, he's Von Miller. The problem is I don't think he does, and it is really rare that you find guys that do. They just find it. Because I start paying you. Do you find it odd that TJ Parker got paid quite a bit to stay at Clemson? Then he gets paid, and that's the year where you go, that effort level just wasn't really there. What do you think happens when it's 10 times that in his rookie deal?
That's fair for sure.
Evil, go ahead, brother.
That's something definitely that I haven't heard, because I've heard the stuff about, he could be a late first round pick. I've heard all the same things you said that were positives about him. It feels like sometimes we get that, though. Again, not to jump back on Nessimeier, but it feels like if one person or two people within the industry kind of start hyping this guy up, a lot of people try to follow on those takes to, make sure that they're not on the outside looking in. To hear the effort stuff and for him not to be doing a whole lot out there, it's interesting to hear that from you, watching him pretty intimately there, to be able to pick up on that. And obviously it's something that, us as more, I don't want to say casual fans, but as people who aren't as tied into the industry, getting to see all 22 of these guys and stuff like that, or speak with people who are around them, we don't get to know unless it's a little bit more of that high-ranked player who's going to be talked about as a top 15 pick and why they might rise or fall.
Can I tell you why I think that is?
Sure.
Okay, so there are a handful of guys in this business that I really, really, really respect. Todd McShay, Trevor Sikkema, but the older guys at PFF, because Sam Monson, Palazzolo, because those guys are scouts. They come in and look, Mike, you can attest to this. There is no way that one person saw everything on that field, fact or fiction.
Fuck no, not possible. I was there as one man with two eyes. You can't watch 133 motherfuckers run around and do what they're doing, like in practice. It's not possible.
So Mike can attest to this. So I bring my analytics scout, Bill Workman, with me, who is just an absolute degenerate for tape and practice, and he wants to sit in the same spot. He literally sits in the same spot the entire week, and he just grinds. He doesn't move the whole week. He kills me. I love that guy. I keep him away from people because I'm like, they're going to steal him away from me, and then I'm going to have to compete with him, and I really don't want to do that. I love these on my team. So he's in the middle of the field, just rain manning the practice. I'm doing the same. I've got Megan, who runs my entire life. She's the greatest hire I ever made in my life. I'm always sure to say that in every interview, just so she knows she's really appreciated. That's 3 of us that are doing all of this, and we're coming back and comparing notes. I'm also comparing notes with Mike, with my guys from the Commanders, my guys from the Jaguars. I got eyes all over this. I have never heard somebody say what I'm getting ready to say, and there's no possible way that every one of us hasn't said it behind closed doors. I don't know. I didn't see it. I don't know why that's such an untoward thing to say. I don't know. I didn't see it. They send us the tape. So you get this raw, unedited, this is what the rep looks like. But we're all in such a hurry to hit record or hit go live or hit whatever to be the first one out there to say all this shit. Because we want to be there right after the practice ends. Because we want you to turn off the coverage and then come to us. That's what we're all trying to do. And nobody will just say, I don't know. I didn't see it. There's no way you saw it all. It's not possible. So then somebody says, hey, TJ Parker was great today. And you pick up your phone and you see it on X and you go, oh no, TJ Parker is one of the only top 50 guys here. And he was good. And I didn't see him be good. I only saw a handful of reps though. Maybe he was good when I didn't see him. So you know what? Let's just copy and paste, change a couple words and say TJ Parker was great. And then we have dozens of people saying it. I got news for you. I watched it up close and personal. I'm not the end-all be-all here. I've been wrong a lot. His effort level sucked. He got absolutely dogged by a handful of guys. Now, he got better over the course of the week. But that first day, I was livid, going, what are you looking at? I know you guys are smarter than this. There's no way that's what you saw. And that is a rant that I have wanted to go on, but I had to preface it and warn the innocent that when I start doing this, they're going to think you're the one that said it.
Understood. And I appreciate the preface. I appreciate you going into it, man. Now, I didn't see all of TJ. Like we just said, man, there's no reason to lie. It's not possible to see everything.
It doesn't help anybody.
No. I did see a couple reps that I really enjoyed out of TJ. And then obviously, you know what? I am new into this game. Him being cool enough to come up and answer my question when I'm fucking standing in the stands, not credentialed media, that earns a lot of points with me. So I appreciate TJ. I hope that he has a successful career, obviously. But to hear that, you know, because we were kind of going back and forth and talking about it throughout the week, like, man, how's he doing? How's TJ doing? And you were kind of down on it the whole week, or I guess for most of the week. I hope that he turns it on. I hope this kid does a great job. But tough to hear. Eva, what do you got?
I mean, I'll be honest with you. I work for a network where it would be beneficial for me to say TJ Parker was really, really good. So this is not some like vendetta I have against him. Right. It's nothing like that. Look, Clemson has a reputation of, I'm just going to read you a handful of names. Rook Aurora. I never could say his name. Xavier Thomas, Miles Murphy, Brian Breeze, KJ Henry, Isaiah Simmons, Kayvon Wallace, Christian Wilkins. Hey, finally got one there. Dexter Lawrence got one there. They haven't had a legit defensive player in this league in 6 years. It'd be great if I could go back and say, hey, we finally hit one. Finally, you got one right. But I can't do that with a clear conscience because I don't believe it.
Yeah. It sounds like Peter Woods, though. You are high on him. Obviously, he wasn't out there, but you saying top 15 best defensive tackle in the class out of him?
Peter Woods and Lee Hunter are the 2 best defensive tackles in this class. It really depends on what you want. I heard this comped to Deron Payne, who we have with the Washington Commanders, and Vita Vea when they came out. And it's beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Do you want the guy that is going to be single-handedly a one-man wrecking force against the run, or do you want the guy that's going to have pass rushing chops? I think Hunter has more – he's more of a pass rusher right now than Vita Vea was when he came out of Washington. And I don't think it's really all that close. Vita was bigger. Vita was a slightly better run stuffer, but he could only play 2 or 3 plays at a time. That all of that's come later in life. So for me, they're kind of 1A, 1B, depending on what you're looking at. But I mean, I think Peter Woods' high side is Quinnen Williams. That's how good I think he can be. Will he be? That kind of more depends on where he goes. because we saw this year when you're able to double team him because you're not getting that consistent edge setting from Parker. You're not getting the consistent burst off the edge where he's just beating tackles sideways. Then Woods gets double teamed and he's not as effective. But I mean, I believe in him highly. There are a handful of places that I really want to see him go. And one of them is not to my New York Jets.
You brought up Lee Hunter, man, and he was one of the guys that probably had in the running for best week here. He was spectacular in Indy. He was great in team. I think it was you that brought it up. Like, why is he even still out there practicing on Thursday? Because he had already kind of proved that he had done enough. I think he's got to be in the first round now, right? Like, he was kind of on the borderline, but man, he's had a great fucking week.
He will be a first-round grade for me. I can tell you as of right now, and let me I just want, in the effort of honesty here, I have 23 first-round grades. Lee Hunter will be my 24th because he's the only one I saw that I think now I'm putting him in the first that I didn't have him in the first before. And I feel pretty sure that we're going to stop at 24.
All right.
What about Caleb Banks? I've heard more about him recently. Obviously, only played 3 games last year, injuries and stuff like that. But you commonly see him kind of talked about in first round buzz. How is his performance throughout the week?
He's a weird one for me because he's kind of the exact opposite of TJ Parker. So I kept seeing, and this one I will throw into the bus because they did it like 11 times. Every time I opened Yahoo, I'm getting just inundated with all of these takes about how bad Caleb Banks was and he got washed out, and I didn't see any of that. I thought he was fantastic. Now look, I'm a lifelong Florida State fan, so I had pretty good eyes on this kid throughout his entire time at Florida. He is an absolute brick excrement house. He's 6'6", 330. He's a little heavy in the ass. I'm not gonna lie, he is. But he's also a people mover, and he moves really well for a guy that's 330 pounds. In a class where you have guys that are very one-dimensional, like Caden McDonald doesn't do really anything for you as a pass rusher. He is almost exclusively a run stuff and defensive tackle. Dante Corleone, I kind of feel the same way about him. He's a big, just kind of space occupier. Darrell Jackson from Florida State, I think the same thing about him. Banks is one of the only guys that I look at and go, you can do it all. And there's nothing you can't do if that's what you want to do. And so I've seen him as high as 9 to the Chiefs. That's a little rich for my blood because his knees do worry me. But in terms of, is he a first-round grade? He's right there for me. I don't see a way he survives night 1. He will go somewhere in that first 32 picks.
And that broken foot, you obviously didn't really look like it was holding him back at all there at the Senior Bowl. Or anything
no,
like that.
he did come back for and I'm trying to remember now. I think he came back for Florida. Was it Florida State and Tennessee? He didn't play a ton of snaps against Florida State, but he did come back for that game after he had played 14 snaps up into the last 2 games of the season. He played a ton, I think, against Tennessee, and then he was kind of sparse against Florida State. But, I mean, he looked like he was moving good to me.
All right. Well, we want to move off the defensive line, move to some of the linebackers and defensive backs. Kyle Lewis.
Yeah. Kyle Lewis was fucking phenomenal. He might have been the best player all week.
There were guys that, you know, some of us saw him one way, some of us saw him another way. The TJ Parker thing, the Caleb Banks thing, you can say whatever you want. If somebody came to me and said, you know, Kyle Lewis really just didn't do much, cool. You were in the bathroom doing something the entire day, because that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard somebody say in my life.
Yeah, he was phenomenal. I mean, was it day 2? He ended up with the pick 6. Or was that day 3?
It was day 2 because the Indianapolis Colts linebackers coach, I think, ran stride for stride with him all the way down the sideline.
Yeah, I do remember that now. Yep. Man, yeah, he was phenomenal. I also liked Boettcher. I thought Boettcher did a really good job of finding ball. He scrapes well. Like, he is just kind of a ball magnet. But one thing I did notice is that the few times that they would go to that nickel package when 3 receivers are on the field, Boettcher's the guy coming off.
Okay, so first of all, I have to touch on that you just called him a ball magnet, and the only person I've ever heard called that other than him was my ex-wife. Sorry, I couldn't help it; it was too easy. Second of all, is that how you say his name is Boettcher?
That's how I've been saying it. I hope that's fucking right.
I don't know if it's right or not. I just started calling him the Butcher. I was like, it's got a ch. It starts with a buh. We're going Butcher because I don't know how you actually say it.
I'm going with Boettcher.
I don't watch. So any of my evaluation is not television tape. So I don't ever hear these guys' names said. I don't know what the name is, how it's pronounced until I get the pronunciation guide at the combine. So I kept having people ask me, how do you say his name? And my response was, I don't know. Do I look like somebody that's really saying everybody's name correctly? I look like Luke Combs' fat older brother. I'm not really worried with how you say it.
Fat AJ McCarron right here, baby.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go. But I mean, look, I liked Boettcher. He did get it. He was a little spunky today. He got into a fight in pregame warmups with his own team, which that was odd. I've never seen that before.
He was mixing it up in practices a little bit too.
I'm convinced his ex-girlfriend left him for a running back because he wanted to hurt the running backs. If you came in his house as a tailback, you were gonna know you were there.
Thoughts on Jacob Rodriguez? He was a guy that I liked going into it. Obviously, like a turnover, fumble, peanut punching machine. I know that he did that a little bit out there. Did he show up well for himself? Obviously, considered a little undersized, but the guy just seems to be a baller from everything I've seen from watching him play and interviews and whatnot.
So long as you play a 4-man front and you're going to ask him to play that stereotypical Mike Will position, he's going to be really good. The thing about Jacob Rodriguez, I go back to a line that I heard Tom Brady say of you'll never go broke taking a profit. He is the definition of I cannot tell you that you're going to hit a home run there. I will tell you you're going to get on base. At the very least, that's a legged out single. That kid's going to start and play in this league for 8 to 10 years. And there's just not a lot of those. There are a lot of guys that I look at and go, in the right situation, they'll be really good. In the wrong situation, they'll be selling Geico car insurance in 5 years. I have there's no risk with him. He's going to play, and he's going to play a lot. Is he ever going to be a Pro Bowler? That part I don't know. You know, Bill Workman, the guy that comes with me to senior every year, he's got him in the top 10. I cannot get there because he is undersized. But he also very rarely ever makes mistakes, and he's played damn near every position on the field. So he really understands what he's doing.
Yeah, he started off his collegiate career as a quarterback, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think, and that probably helps him a little bit, obviously, in the back end, understanding where the ball's supposed to go. I was surprised to find out how good he is at getting that ball out, though. Like, one of the things that he's kind of known for, I guess, is ripping the ball out, creating fumbles, things like that. And then after hearing that was when he had the practice. I think that he had at least one that he day 2 or something like that he caused a fumble, which, you know, that's something that's so tough to repeat unless you are a guy like Peanut Tillman or something like that. So interesting guy for sure. I heard someone try to comp him to an Ivan Pace because of the small size. I don't think he's obviously not that small, but a guy that I was a big fan of, and kind of like you said, just because he might not fit every scheme, but he seems like you're going to have a spot for him on your team. He's going to be kind of one of those leadership role type of guys, and you're going to get good production out of him.
He will be the best special teamer on your team. Absolutely worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense. All right. Let's talk a little bit of the DBs. There were a couple guys that I was excited to see that really kind of disappointed me. And Igmanosin was one of the main ones. As an Ohio State guy, I was really looking forward to seeing him go down there against, some obviously top level competition at the Senior Bowl. And all I saw was a lot of grabbing, very, very handsy. And then if he didn't get a good jam, he would get turned around and lost in coverage. Jeremy, did you see something other than that? What did you think of Igmanosin this week? I know we kind of talked about it throughout the week, but where are you at on it?
I agree with every word you just said. I didn't like him coming down here. I like him even less now that I've left. I watched him a lot at Ohio State, and I constantly left myself going, what is everybody seeing this kid? Because I cannot figure it out. I never saw it on the tape. I didn't see it this week. I thought he got cooked a lot. There were a lot of yellow flags at his feet. And, I mean, for me, he's a day 3 flyer. Now, I mean, but you're an Ohio State fan. You can attest to this. Corner has not historically been a position that Ohio State's been great at, specifically in the last, 10 years?
Not since Denzel Ward, probably, that we've had a really solid, that's a dude.
That's the only one that I really remember. Him and didn't Lattimore go to Ohio State?
Yeah, but so Lattimore was really good to start, but I feel like his drop off was just fucking precipitous. It was as fast as hell.
Yeah, as a Washington Commander guy, I can tell you that was money well spent. That didn't necessarily go the way we wanted it to, and he will be free to a good home on March 15th because there's no guaranteed money left.
Yeah. Bud Clark, a guy who took a couple balls away, interceptions, stuff like that. Another one that I had told Mike, hey, keep an eye on this guy. I kind of think that he's going to be someone that was slept on initially going into it. Sounds like he had himself a pretty good week.
He did. He was, for me, he was one of the clear winners of the week, especially at a position. Safety is so weird in this class because we have Caleb Downs, who's one of the highest rated defensive players I've ever had. Then you get the small school kid, Emmanuel McNeil-Warren, who's my 2. Then it's beauties in the eye of the beholder of which one do you like next? As I'm a big AJ Halsey guy. Mm-hmm. I'm not as fond of Theinman from Oregon. I think he's good. I don't think he's the guy you take in the 2nd or 3rd round. He's very safe. You know what you've got, but I would like to pair him with another high-end safety. Kamari Ramsey doesn't do it for me much at all. Zakey Whitley, I've got to keep really even-keeled because he loses his shit sometimes. And then I just kept coming back to Bud Clark going, if you go back to the 24 tape, he was outstanding. He's a little light in the ass. Not as big as you want necessarily from a safety, but he was good this year. And so I think by the time this all shakes out, it will just be Downs is my 1, McNeil-Warren's my 2, Halsey's my 3, Bud Clark is my 4, and Theinman's my 5. That's how good I think he was this week. He passed a handful of guys, not because he was so much better than them, because he was the one that was there, and he really showed what he could do. I thought he was phenomenal all week long.
And was it more than just the fact that he's able to go in there and get those turnovers and good in coverage, but does he actually kind of look like that, like you said, a little light and nasty? Well, he's 6'2", I think, but just a little bit thinner framed and whatnot if you were to pack on a little bit more. Is he a decent tackler? Because I used to watch a ton of him.
He is. So he weighed in at 185 pounds here. He's 6. So he's listed at 6'2". He's actually 6'01" flat. So he's 6'1", $185. The size is going to bother some teams. Like some teams are just not going to draft a safety that's that thin. Mm-hmm. If you want to go by point of comparison here, and I'll just go the first safety that comes up when I click this. So Zakey Whitley was 6'0", 201 pounds, and I thought he looked thin. Yeah. Michael Taffy, who's short, was 8 pounds heavier than Clark. Kamari Ramsey's got him by 15 pounds, and he's 2 inches shorter than him. That's going to bother some teams, but I just feel like he's always in the right spot. I never considered his tackling to be a huge problem. It may not be the best thing that he does. His missed tackle rate's about average, 14.5%. but he was really good against the run. His depth of run tackle was pretty good at 6'3", which is pretty good for a safety. And he forced a lot of incompletions. I got to see Bud Clark up close and personal because we're an affiliate of the North Carolina Tar Heels. So for Belichick's first game, I had to go, and I was right down on the field, and Bud Clark came right by me and may have said some less than nice things to the Carolina faithful, and he deserved that, and I don't hold that against him.
All right. Evo, you got any other DBs or corner safety that you want to talk about in terms of positive, negative? Who did good, bad?
No, not really. Just holistically, I'm sure this gets asked all the time, but who probably raised their stock the most and who came into Senior Bowl week and probably hurt themselves the most, do you think?
I can give you my 3 guys that I think helped themselves the most. Lee Hunter, Colton Hood, and Kyle Lewis. Probably the top 3 guys that I'd say really did good shit this week.
So the only reason I would disagree with you on the first 2, I had Hood as a net neutral, but
okay,
they started so high that you can only help yourself so much. I mean, I got news for you. There ain't nobody at the Senior Bowl that's getting themselves into the top 10 just because it's not there. There's enough negative on the tape. That's why you show up here. So, like Lee Hunter, I think he pushed himself from the 40s to the 20s. He made some money. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you wholeheartedly on Kyle Lewis. I'm going to go the running backs. Mike Washington Jr. from Arkansas. He made himself a fortune because this running back class absolutely sucks. I'm not sure he's not the second best running back in the class. And that's coming from a guy that loves Nick Singleton.
Who broke his foot, I believe.
He did. He broke the 5th metatarsal, which unfortunately for him is going to push him down because it means he's not going to be able to run the combine.
Yeah, they're saying they don't think he's even going to be ready for pro days, possibly.
Yeah, I think Singleton really because I think he would have run a stupid time.
Yeah.
And that's really where I had kind of his rise. So now I'm looking at Washington going, that number 2 spot's available, and I think you can go take it. Seth McGowan, I thought, did himself a lot of favors. Kalen Rutledge from Georgia Tech made himself a good amount of money, I believe. Bud Clark would be high on that list. Deshaun Singleton from Nebraska. One of the biblical brothers, Ephesians Prysock, which is if I ever have another kid. If I have a son, his name's Ephesians Prysock Green, no doubt. Bryson Eason from Tennessee. He wasn't here the whole week, but he was a game wrecker when he was. And then my number 1 answer, and I can't believe I have found a way to not mention this kid's name, Nadame Tucker.
Oh, yeah. He was really fucking good this week, man.
Nadame Tucker is my new best friend. I can't wait to see him at the combine and ask him if we can be bestest friends forever and ever.
I understand. I mean, he was spectacular this week. So I understand why you want to be friends, but who do you have as hurting themselves the most? We don't have to go too far. I think this is a pretty easy one. I think that for me, it's Pavia, Igbinosun, and then honestly, McCoy out of Tennessee. He was getting torched in one-on-ones. He had a really hard time. Anytime the comeback route or something where hard snap off, he was just couldn't shut it down. Could not get turned back around. So those are the guys that I thought really did themselves no favors.
I hurt themselves the most. For me, Parker didn't do himself any favors. I think it's gonna get to the point of what he says at the combine is gonna get really, really important. I think all of the quarterbacks butchered themselves. I saw a ton of comments on social media of if you're looking for a quarterback in this class, don't turn on Senior Bowl tape because it's not going to do you any favors.
Do you think Peyton gets taken as a late round guy, like the 7th round or something like that?
The kid from North Dakota State?
Yeah.
He's the closest. So I have 5 draftable quarterbacks in this class. He's my 6th.
Okay.
So knowing what I know of quarterbacks that don't deserve to go are going to go, I think someone will take him. What's going to burn him is he's left-handed, and we don't have any left-handed starting quarterbacks at this point with Tua Tagovailoa losing his spot in Miami. I also don't think Tua is going to be a starter anywhere else. He might go in and compete for a job, but it's hard to draft a left-handed quarterback when you have a right-handed starter. Not saying it can't be done. It's just not easy.
Yeah, very true. And I agree with you. I think Tua's the concussions, the leadership questions, the size, you had to have that team that drafted him make him successful. Otherwise, it's a desperation franchise that'll try to put him in there. But as a front office, how can you feel confident at all giving this guy money when he could be out for the year with another concussion or end his career? I think it's very prohibitive with him.
I've gotten to see him 2 times a year as a fan of the Jets, and I've just watched the decline over time. And I know part of it's cognitive decline. I know part of it's just your body breaking down. But this past year he didn't look like the same player. I mean, it was like somebody put on a Tagovailoa jersey and went, "Hey, I'm him now." There's just nothing there.
No, we're big haters of Tua. Like, not necessarily haters. He's just not very good. Hasn't been very good for a while. And then with the concussion thing, like, you're constantly worried in his contract. I don't know what they're going to be able to do. Do we know they're out, Evo? Do you know they're out, Jeremy? Because it feels like it's got to be a couple years away. They just did this deal.
So the contract on Tua, I already pulled this because I think they're pulling the ripcord this year.
They're saying fuck it and letting it happen?
Mm-hmm. So the dead cap on him is $99.2 million, and I think they're going to do it. I mean, I watched Denver do it with Russell Wilson, and they were in the AFC Championship game this year.
Yeah, I think if it's like a post-June 1st, they can only take 34 this year and then packed on later or something like that. But yeah, it's a huge dead cap hit number.
He's it's gonna hurt for a while, but look, I mean, it's what happens when you sign quarterbacks that shouldn't. I mean, I'm the president of the Stop Giving Elite Money to Average Quarterbacks Club, and teams just keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it, and then they wind up in these spots. I got no sympathy for you. I mean, if you couldn't see it out of Tua when you gave him the contract, teams are so scared to go 2-15 because we're so quick on the trigger. We're so quick, but look what happened. You signed Tua to this big deal. Chris Greer got fired. Mike McDaniel got fired. Now Jeff Hafley's down there, and I promise you he told them when he went in, we can't win with him. Just can't do it.
Absolutely.
Well, you just brought up there. I just lost my train of thought. We were talking about Tua, and damn it, I lost where I was going. Anyway,
new coaches.
Yes, thank you. New coaches, because you brought up guys moving around. So let's talk some new coaches. My Cleveland Browns have a new coach, and you know what? Couple days removed, I've calmed down a little bit. I don't dislike the hire. I didn't necessarily dislike the hire when it happened, but the entire process that took place to find a coach to come in and coach the Cleveland Browns was an absolute shit show. Jeremy, we talked about this a little bit while you were down here. Just what do you make of the process and then landing where we land? We have now essentially alienated our defensive coordinator and Jim Schwartz because we go out, hire outside of the building, even though Jim was, promoted by several players inside that locker room. Like, it just, I want to hear where you're at, because I know we talked a little bit about the process the Browns were taking while you were down here.
Well, I mean, I'm not upset at not giving it to Jim Schwartz. I've seen him as a head coach. It wasn't impressive. I know he's a good defensive coordinator. There's a reason that he got fired by the Lions in 2013. He's had, that I know of, at least 3 super high-end defenses that he was if he wasn't a coordinator, he was up high in that room, and he never got another shot. I mean, you've been a defensive coordinator. He was the coordinator of the Titans team that went to the Super Bowl in 2001. He got 4 years as a head coach. That tells you everything you need to know. He's not good in these rooms. He's not good as the main guy. He's a great coordinator, and that's fine. In terms of how do I feel about the process, I think the process was completely ass backwards. Asking type A personalities to write an essay or take a personality test is insanity. But at the end of the day, you got exactly what you wanted. At least if you're the owner of the, what's his name? Jimmy Haslam.
Jimmy Haslam, yeah.
He got exactly what he wanted. He got a guy that looked him in the face and said, I wanted Shedeur Sanders. Because he did. Todd Monken was beating the table for Shedeur Sanders a year ago. Now, do I understand why he wanted Shedeur Sanders? Not even a little bit. I didn't see it when he was coming out. I really didn't see it this year. And I think he was the final death nail on the Pro Bowl, because if Shedeur Sanders is a Pro Bowler, then I'm a ballerina. And at 6'5", 300 pounds, I don't think I fit in them tights.
Yeah, that's fair. Evo, go ahead, brother.
I always, and I've been mocking this whole Browns hiring process situation. It's like and it's not to sound too misogynistic here, but it's like the ugly girl at the prom trying to take interviews from all the jocks or something like that of who gets to take her. Yeah, it's not like the Browns situation with their ownership group and how they've been running things has been the best. It's a much maligned franchise, and now you're trying to add. Like, I understand that you should have some standards, but trying to going above and beyond what a normal franchise purportedly normally does to, hire these coaches or interview the coaches, it seems a little bit like you should be happy to have some of these names like a Udinski who's coming up and things like that coming in, considering coaching your franchise, because it's a big risk for these guys. They might never get another shot if they take this head coaching job. And if things go bad, which traditionally they haven't gone great in Cleveland. So you have these guys coming in and then you kind of scare them off with this sort of stuff. It was a really interesting process to me. Obviously, we don't know the full ins and outs of it, but I highly doubt that the reports of these personality tests and essays and everything are just completely made up.
So I can give you a little bit on that, because my agent works with a handful of guys that represent NFL coaches. And all this is off the record. Like, I'm not going to tell you who said it. There were guys in this surge that left that building laughing, saying, get me the hell out of here. I'm not doing this. Mm-hmm. Because it's just not the way it's done. And I feel like the Browns are on this analytical kick of we're going to do this better than anybody else. I'll give you the Shedeur Sanders thing. I'll give it to you in a nutshell. Last year, I was at the draft in Green Bay. We had Johnny Mitchell. He was a franchise player for the Jets back in the mid-'90s. He dated Shedeur's mom. He was, before Dion, he was on our first-round coverage with us. Great guy. I love him to death. I hope he's there this year. We discussed a lot of this, and I told him, I said, dude, I saw Shedeur at the combine. I saw that whole excrement show with him and Josina Anderson. I saw it all. And this kid thinks, to your point of Betty Bowlegs thinking she can get the starting quarterback to take her to prom, that's what he was. He thinks that he's being held back by the league. He thinks he was held back because of his dad in some shape or form, of which if you can find anybody in this league to say something bad about his dad, it'll be the first one I've ever found. He's an entitled little shit. He doesn't always say it out loud. I've witnessed it. This is not an opinion. It's a fact. And Jimmy Haslam wanted to go into this and find somebody that would give him confirmation bias of, I did something that the other GMs in the league wouldn't do, or the other owners in the league wouldn't do. And I'm right and they're wrong. And what he got was a quarterback that came out and gave him an 18 QBR, which, for point of reference, Justin Fields, who I actually thought was a sleeper agent for Las Vegas to force the New York Jets to never cover a spread again, beat him by 15 full points. That's how bad he was. And then he comes into this search. I don't understand why you fire Stefanski. Like, if you're going to give the mandate that you have to have Shedeur, which I know he did, then why'd you fire Stefanski? Nobody wants this kid.
I'm not sure that Stefanski wanted to work with Shedeur. That is a lot of the narrative that is being pumped around Cleveland, is that there was not a good relationship there. And a lot of the things that we've, media in Cleveland has kind of come out and said, at one point there was an article by who I don't remember, but it was in The Athletic, basically said that Stefanski was not coaching Deshaun. Well, that last season that Deshaun was playing. And that really rubbed me the wrong way, as, and maybe it's just my background, but like when you're the head coach, when you're the guy that's in charge, the leader, you have to hold everybody's feet to the fire. It doesn't matter, quarterback, kicker, like go anywhere in between. Everybody has to have some sort of accountability, held to them by their head coach. And the fact that he wasn't doing that by some of the reports really bothers me. That tells me that he's not being a leader. And I think that the process, they wanted to try to find a leader of men, and they just didn't figure out how to actually do that process, because we have an analytical think tank that's pulling data points that they think they can just outsmart everybody, and that's not the case. We've also had a guest on the show, Carmen Angelo of iHeart, who basically said that it's Jimmy. Jimmy is the problem. Jimmy wants somebody who he can be in control of, who will take his brilliant ideas and run with them. So I agree. The process was shit. I think Jimmy has really screwed this. Now, I disagree with the Shedeur thing. I'm a Shedeur fan. But also, I kind of have to be, because he's going to be my starting quarterback next year. That meeting with Monken, no doubt in my mind, that is going to be who starts.
So here's what I'll tell you. And working with the Jets, being a fan of the Jets, I saw this firsthand. There is one absolute infallible in football. If you find me a franchise that sucks, I'll find you an owner that sucks. Just go through the list of teams. Who are the worst franchises in the NFL? The New York Jets. Woody Johnson's a joke. Jimmy Haslam, he's a joke with Cleveland Browns. The Detroit Lions were a joke for a billion years. When did they become not a joke? When Sheila Ford Hamp took over this team. It was in 2020. And the first thing she did was hire Brad Holmes, who is the smartest dude I have ever spoken to in my entire life. I mean, he is Rain Man smart in everything. I mean, you can talk to him about anything. He's a brilliant, brilliant mind. And he brings in a coach in Dan Campbell that just scares the hell out of everybody, and everybody wants to run through a wall for him. You can change GMs, you can change coaches, you can change starting quarterbacks. I have seen bad GMs win in this league. I have seen good coaches or bad coaches win in this league. Zach Taylor went to a damn Super Bowl. I've seen mediocre quarterbacks win in this league. Jalen Hurts won a Super Bowl because the roster around him was so unbelievably good. What I've never seen, I have never seen a bad owner win. And people will say Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones won with a roster that was constructed by Jimmy Johnson, and he got his panties in a bunch because nobody wanted to give him the credit for doing it because he didn't. And then he started doing it, and they've never been back to another NFC Championship game. That's the problem. And it's the worst problem to have in all of sports because I can't trade the owner. I can sit around and pray that maybe he'll sell the team, or I can low-key in whispered tones whisper, how good's his heart? What's his cholesterol look like right now? Because that's the only way to get out of it. And it sucks. It is an absolute abomination to sit around and go, there is nothing about this that I can do. Because the owner, I'm stuck with the owner. He's here forever. And I can tell you, what you've heard about Cleveland is 100% true. Jimmy Haslam thinks he's smarter than everybody else. He's not. The best owners are the ones you never hear from.
That's honestly something I probably haven't really thought about. I mean, we trash on some of these owners and stuff like that, but then you think about it, you remove Dan Snyder, and then I don't know how good Josh Harris is, but obviously he's a step above because the team made such a quick turnaround. David Tepper was, kind of a joke there for a long time in Carolina. They've had some good runs at points, but like I think that he's pretty terrible with the ownership side of things. It's a really good point.
That was two really funny owners for you to choose because I know them both. Josh Harris is that whole ownership group is aces. Aces. I'm friends with 24 people in that organization. I work with their podcast group all the time. You know what I've never had anybody tell me? Josh Harris came down here and told us blank. You know what I hear constantly? He sent me an email that said, good job. And then he never said another word to me. That's a good owner. It's a good ownership group. David Tepper came in and thought that he was the smartest guy in the room. And then he got Dan Morgan and he got Dave Canales and a handful of other people. Luke Kuechly's still very close to that team. I'm an affiliate for the Panthers on one of the stations that I'm on here in the Carolinas. So I'm very close to the Panthers. All of these guys got him in a room and said, Dave, buddy, you're such a nice guy. And he is. He's a very nice guy. I've met him at training camp every single year. He's a very nice guy. We know you're competitive. You got to keep it in here and keep it out of here. Don't say it. We're all competitive. Everybody's pissed off when they lose. You don't throw a drink on somebody. You don't let fans who have nothing to lose engage you who has everything to lose. And he took that to heart, and 2 years later, they're in the playoffs. That's not a coincidence.
That's a really good point.
Go ahead, Evo.
I was just saying that's a really good point. I'm surprised that that's something that we really haven't completely correlated before, is that how much the ownership groups really, really impact these franchises.
I did the owners meeting one time. I went one time. And it taught me damn near everything I ever needed to know. Because Bob Kraft, who is the owner of a franchise that has haunted my nightmares for 30 years, I looked at him. He spoke in my presence for maybe 120 seconds. And when he walked away, I went, son of a bitch, I can't say a negative thing about him because he has a presidential aura about him. And it's borderline infallible. Tom Brady was upset at that roast, not because people said things about his wife, not because people said things about the jiu-jitsu instructor. They were mad because they tried to make Bob Kraft look like something that he's not. That tells you everything you need to know. When you have a former employer where this ended badly, and your former employee gets so upset that he tells Netflix, I will never work with you again because you broke my one rule, which was you cannot throw dirt at him. Tells you a lot. And guess what? They lose Tom Brady. It ends badly, as many quarterback relationships do. They go and get Drake May. They go get Mike Vrabel, who didn't want to talk to anybody else. By the way, he did work on the Brown staff, and they wanted him as the coach, and he didn't want to be there.
Yeah, I've heard that as well.
I have a really good Mike Vrabel story that involves Indianapolis, Indiana, and a slew of tequila shots.
You don't have to share that now, but I would love to hear that story at some point.
You talk about I've had maybe 5 hangovers in my entire life. One of them was that day, and it was so worth it.
No, I bet. Vrabes is probably a fucking great dude.
That was the one year he wasn't a coach. He was there as a administrative assistant or a senior assistant or whatever it was. And we saw what he really was. And I told everybody that would listen, that dude's going to become a head coach again, and that team's going to be really good. And it was exactly what I was afraid of. It was the New England Patriots.
Yeah, you as a Jets fan, I'm sure, does not enjoy that. But we have some news for Evo's team. Evo is actually a Vikings fan. You guys are going to be looking for a new GM, but not looking for one until after the draft. Kwesi out. Evo, I know you were kind of pumped about Kwesi being out. Jeremy, is this a common, like this late in the game to fire a GM? Feels like it's very odd, but the Vikings are going with a completely different way of doing this. They're not going to try to bring somebody in right away. Everything's going to stay in-house, and they're going to go through the draft. And with who's in charge of this, Evo?
Rob Brzezinski, who's been with the team since 1999. He's really well regarded in the league as like a capologist, contracts guy. I'm a fan of him, everything that he's done with the team. But it is very weird. You'll see sometimes the teams will fire a GM or move on from a GM maybe after the draft or something like that. But it seems like they said, hey, Kwesi, go down to the Senior Bowl. Stay there so we can all get in a room back here at home and talk about what we're going to do with you. There's more coming out now about how they had considered moving on from him over the past couple years. This was his 4th season with the team, but too heavy on the analytics, not communicative enough. Even stuff about how it seemed like Kevin O'Connell was the one leading a lot of the meetings for free agents and things like that, and that Kwesi really wasn't too involved with it. Which, you know, there's been one good free agency since he's been in there in 2024, and really no good drafts. And so that's why I was kind of banging the table. I was like, we need to quit banging our head against the wall with him. But it is interesting that they decided to do this now instead of trying to bring someone else in to kind of lead the whole offseason. I'm less scared about the draft and more about free agency, because I just don't know how much Brzezinski's been involved in, other than working on the contracts, with actually negotiating with the players and the agents and things like that.
Guys like this can succeed. This is what Mike Tannenbaum did. I think there's possibility that he's the next GM. I don't know that.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you I do know what happened with Kwesi, and it's
Cleveland.
You ever heard of the Mandela effect?
Mm-hmm.
So people think they saw a thing that never really happened. Kwesi Adofo-Mensah swears he saw J.J. McCarthy look like a franchise quarterback. And instead of having the Chick-fil-A logo shown to him where there's been a K literally since the day this place was opened, he kept arguing of, no, it was CHIC when I was a kid. No, it wasn't. You're wrong. You're wrong. You've been wrong. And you let Daniel Jones walk out the door last year, which pissed everybody in that building off. He didn't, oddly enough, get as much flack about Sam Darnold, because Sam basically told them, if J.J. McCarthy's here, I'm not going to be. Because I will be the unquestioned starter somewhere, because Sam never lost the respect of the league. Kwesi told him, we can't win with Sam Darnold. It's fine. I'll go bring back Daniel Jones. The Indianapolis Colts got him for a song, and at one time, they had the lowest rated quarterback in the NFL, and the two highest rated quarterbacks in the NFL were the two backups on the team from the year before. And that got in the head of the Wolves. It got in the head of the Vikings leadership. And they kept asking him, how are you going to fix this? And his answer continued to be J.J. McCarthy. We've seen it. You're wrong. It's not going to be him. He's awful. And you got a bunch of people like me and people that work in the league that have told you this since before you ever drafted him. So the fact that it played out this way, it's one thing to look at the entire industry and go, I'm right, you're wrong. It's another when you've done it and you were wrong and you're still defending it 2 years later.
Yeah, the defense mechanisms for that would be pretty crazy. Kind of like Mike, I am a JJ McCarthy fan. I think that he could develop. I do think at this point, obviously hindsight's 2020. It was absolutely a mistake to not even consider franchising Darnold or offering Daniel Jones a more significant contract to try to woo him to stay there, because the reports coming out were that Kevin O'Connell isn't out on JJ McCarthy on being the guy but that he knew going into this year he wasn't ready to start. Obviously the mechanics are very flawed, and he's one of the youngest quarterbacks in the league still, so you know you can take your time with him a little bit more, but I think Kwesi probably had the idea of rookie scale contract. We have to run with this, have to make it work to build out the rest of the roster, and the execution was just completely flawed in it, because rather than take the word from your coaches and stuff that, hey, he's not ready, you lean into it more, and more often than not that results in failure. You bring up ownership group stuff. I'm interested to hear, as a Vikings fan, your thoughts on Mark and Ziggy Wilf, and do they seem like an ownership group that could possibly get a team over the hump? Because the fans in Minnesota have maybe soured on them a little bit. Obviously the NFLPA report cards and stuff are always glowing and everything for them, and I think they've done a lot of good things with the team since taking over for Red McCombs, but they do seem like the franchise owners that they want to get into the playoffs every year, but I'm not super convinced that they are 100% dedicated to doing whatever it takes to get a Super Bowl.
And this is all just things I've heard from people around the league. They're helicopter parents. They want to let you take care of yourself, and then when you really mess up, they come in and lecture you, which is exactly why and this is the reason I believe what I've been told, is because that makes sense. Of you go through the Senior Bowl, you come back, because basically the way this works, and it's very telling with the timing. Basically, these guys come back, and I can tell you Kwesi was at the Senior Bowl, and I know that because I talked to him. He comes back, And I guarantee you they had a sit down of what is your plan with JJ. And he told them exactly what I would have told them, which is there's not a quarterback. There was not a quarterback at the Senior Bowl. There's not one at the Shrine Bowl. There wasn't one at the Hula Bowl. There's not one in this class that is better than what we have. And so when they said that, you get the two helicopter parents that haven't really been around, and that's the first time they've heard it. And the plan is we're just going to lather up and do this again with either Mac Jones or Jimmy Garoppolo or one of these just absolute Band-Aids. And the Wilfs lost their shit. And they went, I'm tired of being patient. You're out. But now, in terms of what they do in Minnesota, they're one of the more favorably looked at ownership groups because they're just not involved. Like, we don't ever get anything from them. They do great stuff in the community. They're very good at promoting it. And so they kind of get this pass of they give a lot of money away. They do a lot of good. And so you kind of what you're saying to the NFLPA report cards. They do a lot of what you want an ownership group to do. The problem is they left the team in the hands of Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, and not a lot of us really felt like it was in good hands.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, sounds about right. But by the way, where did Kwesi come from again? Oh yeah, the analytical think tank there in Cleveland.
Yeah, that analytics thing, and it's funny. And Mike, you can attest to this. I've got an analytics heavy guy that helps me with our stuff with the draft because he sees it in a way I don't. At the end of the day, when I watch the tape, if the numbers don't match the tape, then the numbers kind of go out the window. Where the numbers come into play, and they're so useful, is when you get into athletic scores and comping these guys to other guys. And have we ever had players that have done this? And this is where I think Bill is a freaking genius. Where is the league going? This is something that he's pointed out to me over the years. And once you see it, you can't really unsee it. Offensive linemen are getting bigger. Defensive linemen are getting smaller. Linebackers are getting smaller. Wide receivers are getting smaller. Quarterbacks are getting smaller. Why are offensive linemen getting bigger? Because you're watching them get beat time after time after time after time after time. So we were so worried about Will Campbell's small arms last year. Will Campbell was a stalwart for the New England Patriots because they said, you know what? Let's just try something. Because worst case scenario, we'll move him over to the right when Morgan Moses retires. Absolute worst case scenario, we'll move him into guard and he'll be one of the best guards in the league. But there's no miss here because he's a great football player and he'll get us through this year. Because I got news for you. This team didn't plan on being in the Super Bowl. They're looking around going, hey, that schedule in Drake May, baby. That worked out great, but we didn't expect to be here. And I can tell you that by how they built the roster. There were a couple moves they made that screamed to me you didn't think you'd be here. So you're ahead of schedule. But I hear things about Cleveland where Cleveland's making every decision based on analytics. I mean, this is Sean Payton not kicking a field goal when he knows a snowstorm's coming. Well, the analytics say not to do it. I don't give a damn what the analytics say. The analytics aren't going to get fired. I'm going to get fired. I'm going to be the one that has to go work at Fox again, which great company to work for. I can attest. And I'm going to have to do TV because I'm too stupid to kick a field goal knowing damn well it's going to snow like just pouring piss out of a boot in an hour. And I didn't take points with a backup quarterback. That'll stick with him if he coaches for 40 more years. They'll still mention it. Hey, dum-dum, would you kick the field goal now? That's why he got out in front of it. Of course I would. The analytics said go. I didn't think about it. I was trying to catch lightning in a bottle. My bad. I won't make that mistake again. Analytics are a tool. They can't be everything. If there was a formula to do this, I would be working at Home Depot. Straight up. Because if there was a formula, everybody would have it. They would reverse engineer it. They would tinker it every year, and we wouldn't exist. But at the end of the day, you still need idiots like me that are willing to sit here and grind through the tape and go, oh, look at his eyes right there. His eyes flinched a quarter of a second faster than everybody else's did. That kid's going to be an all-pro. And guess what? We miss all the time. Hell, I thought Justin Jefferson was going to be a complete dumpster fire. Not because he wasn't talented, but because I thought he had one of those emotional EQ things where every time things went sideways, he was going to lose his shit. Well, I think as we saw that with J.J. McCarthy. He's over there throwing helmets and banging his helmet against the bench. That's what I saw. Now, I may have missed the fact that he's probably the best receiver in the NFL. So maybe I didn't see the forest for the trees. But there's a reason that we all come together to do this. There's a reason that we all have jobs. And it's because at some point you need human eyes on this thing.
For sure.
Absolutely. Got one more comment coming in here. Jeremy Greene joins. I follow. Appreciate you, Evan.
E. Doyle is that's one of my OG. Dude, that's one of the in my life. One of the things that and this is advice I will give to you two too. I got so lucky. I was a traveling stand-up comedian. I did the draft as a hobby. I respect what you guys are doing so unbelievably freaking much because I'm gonna wait. Let me guess. You both work. Do you both work day jobs?
I'm currently a full-time student going back, using all my benefits. So,
I still work for the Department of Defense. So, yeah.
First of all, you both had me when he said we're both veterans. Salute you for everything you've done for the greatest country in the world. That had me here meeting Mike and hearing your story. Even without knowing Evo, I was present and accounted for. This is a hard business to survive in. I've been very, very lucky to just fall ass backwards into most of it and make the most of the opportunity. I like to think. I can't tell you that's what I've done, but it's what I've tried to do. I have a super supportive wife who is the coolest person on the planet. And trust me, you may think that's not important. Mike's wife is running the show right now because I see her it's the producer right there. I see her right there. A supportive wife is everything. From there, it's catching the right breaks and making the most of those breaks. And boys, if I can ever help you with one of those, you both have my phone number. So if you got one and you go, hey, we need X, you call me and I'll do the damnedest I can.
Awesome.
Jeremy. Brother, I appreciate that so much, man. And I cannot thank you enough for coming on the show tonight. It's been a busy, busy week. You were traveling as well. But I honestly, man, it was a pleasure to be able to meet you. Thank you. I mean, for kind of welcoming me in as a first timer down here and kind of showing me the ropes. So I cannot thank you enough.
Trevor Sikkema did it for me at my first combine, or at my first combine and my first Senior Bowl. When I say I was a pissant nobody, I mean, I was on like the 159th biggest radio in the 159th biggest radio market in the country, just figuring out what I wanted to do in life. And Trevor his meteor was soaring to the moon. You guys are so much better equipped than I was. And you're just two really good dudes. And I hope for all the success. I hope a year from now, you have 1,000 Evan Doyles who just chimed in here because you deserve it. And good luck in everything you do. And if you ever want a big ginger mulleted idiot to come talk sports, you give me a call.
Absolutely. We will do that, brother. We will absolutely do that. Evo, my man, I think that's going to wrap it up for tonight. We have got to thank Jeremy one last time for everything that he has done for the show and coming on tonight. But with that, Evo, do you have anything else?
No, I thank you so much, Jeremy. This was an awesome show, getting some of the inside background stuff that we don't normally get to do. We have guests on every now and then, and we always love having guests on. But it's a lot more of like the pundit type talk of us just kind of spitballing things back together. To hear your perspective on stuff kind of being tied in a little bit more. Super incredible. Can't thank you enough for all the help, support, for being here for us. It makes us feel fantastic to have you on. I can't thank you enough.
I mean this when I say this. The pleasure was 100% all mine. Keep doing what you're doing. It's impressive, good shit.
Awesome.
Hey, thank you very much, man. So guys, everybody who tuned in tonight, thank you very much. Time is the most valuable thing that you have. So anytime that you give some of it to us, we are forever grateful. I'm going to give Evo one last word, then we're going to get the fuck out of here until Tuesday when we get ready to take a look at the Super Bowl going forward. But Evo, go ahead, take it away, brother.
My last word is, again, thanks to Jeremy Greene. Follow him everywhere that you can. Obviously, he knows his shit, and it's been incredible to have you on. Looking forward to hopefully getting to see you and meet you in the future in person. Hopefully next year. Not so bad of weather, and I can get down into the Senior Bowl.
I go to damn near every event, and now, shockingly enough, I get to make the call on who goes with us, which, it still amazes me of like, I was the non-radio guy and now I'm like the boss. I don't know how that happened. I mean, don't tell anybody because I'm afraid they're going to figure it out and go, oh shit, we left him in charge. That was a bad idea. We should fire anybody else. But yeah, any event you want to go to, I'll be in Indy in 4 weeks.
Alrighty.
I don't know how far that is from y'all because distance is not really my thing. I hop on a plane and I'm here. But I'll be in Indy.
For Mike, but I would have to be flying out there for sure. I'm here in Arizona, but yeah, that's definitely one of the pinnacle type things that we want to try to get to that combine.
Indy the draft too.
Oh, the draft. We're taking let's see, at last count, I think we have 14 people in for the draft.
Nice.
And some of them don't know each other. Some of them never met each other. That's gonna be. I honestly want to bring a film crew just to film them.
Very nice.
Well, if you need a guy who has a bunch of cameras, I'm that guy.
Hey, don't tempt me with a good time.
All right, guys. Thank you very much. I'm Mike. That's Evo. Thank you very much, Jeremy. But we're getting the fuck out of here. See ya.